Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 4 of the Education Concierge podcast. You know who I am. My name is 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗰𝘁𝐵. I'm the Education Concierge, and we have vetted, have talked to, we are ready for our next podcast guest. I'm excited. I'm trying to contain it, y'all. Y'all know how I get. Her name is Samantha Murray. She is, I'm going to look at my notes again. I know how I like to read things correctly. Founder and CEO of 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗰𝘁𝗄𝗏 LLC. And we are going to talk about how she is a disruptor. That's the word of the year. I don't care. That's the word of the year for me. We're disrupting some stuff. And it can be on different levels. But of course, here, we focus on education from pre-K all the way up to higher ed, community. Even look, I got some homeschool people that I'm pulling in, what you're disrupting over there. We're going to get started. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Oh, I'm going to say this, y'all. She's already part of the family, so act accordingly. Okay. Welcome, Ms. Murray. Please introduce yourself and tell us about your business, your company, and your profession.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for welcoming me into the family. And even before I get started talking about myself, I want to acknowledge that while I am in conversation with you right now, there are people listening. And so I want to acknowledge them as part of the conversation and thank them for their time and for just the community that you've built and that you've cultivated and that now I'm a part of. So thank you and welcome to all of your listeners. And I'm honored to introduce myself. As Benita said, I am the founder and CEO of 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗰𝘁𝗄𝗏 LLC. And it's my baby. And as my mom says, it's her grandbaby. And so 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗰𝘁𝗂𝗏 is really an extension of me, my parents, and all that they have taught me and shown me through education. Officially, 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗰𝘁𝗂𝗏 is a boutique advisory firm. And one of the things that is so important to me in terms of vision is that we can live in a world where every school is a high quality school, able to serve all students equally well. And it took me 20 years to get that vision in that way. I can talk a little bit more about how I came to that a little bit later in the conversation, but 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗰𝘁𝗂𝗏 is really just a one-person show right now in terms of operating. I work with charter schools, private schools, public school systems, what I can handle in a portfolio of one person. And I'm looking to branch out so that I can actually serve more people. So for right now, it's a lot of one-on-one work. It's a lot of deep thinking. It's a lot of disruption, and a lot of productive tension when I work with school leaders. And the thing that they're trying to do is they're trying to either improve, they're trying to innovate on something, or they're trying to transform. And so I help them along that journey.
I love it. Okay, so that was a lot. We got to get into this. Okay. Yeah. Let's start there. Let's unpack how it took you 20 years. And let me go back. One, I love that you said it's a family thing. Like your parents are like, you are our baby, and therefore your business is our baby. Yes. And we're in this together. Because that's the village mentality that we love here at TEC. But tell us why 20 years? And because everybody's why is different. And then tell us, how did you arrive to this vision? Because I love it. You said it so fast, and I was like, wait, I'm gonna write it down again. But I got it. I know you wrote it in already for me. So I got it. But yes, tell us, how did you get 20 years into this vision? Because the vision is powerful.
Thank you. And I'll say it again. It's a world where every school is a high quality school, able to serve all students equally well. 20 years to get to that place, around 20 years. So in 1993, I was entering high school, and I'm a Baltimore native. I left that out of my intro. I'm a Baltimore native, Baltimore City. My mom is from Baltimore City. My dad's a country boy from Charleston, South Carolina. They met when they were teenagers. My dad said, that's where my girlfriend is. Baltimore is my home. And that's why I'm here in Baltimore. So I'm the oldest of three. And my education was always so important. I don't think that's surprising. I mean, I think that's something that so many of us they know. I mean, education is one of the ways that you can change your life,
Yes.
Circumstances. And my mom was the first person in her family to graduate from high school. My dad was the first person in his family to graduate from high school, then to graduate from college. His siblings followed suit. And so for us, I have a younger brother and sister. My parents were looking for the best school that they could send us to. We didn't come into money. We weren't born into money. We weren't born into, excessive privilege or anything that could give us sort of that leg up. So my mom and my dad were looking for the best public school in Baltimore City in the 80s. And, it wasn't looking so great. And so what they ultimately decided to do was the best that they could do at that time with what they had and what they knew was a Catholic school in a part of Baltimore that wasn't, ideal. But my mom and dad thought that the education environment was what I needed at the time. So I was still young, first grade, second grade, my siblings coming up behind me. Moved through that Catholic school, go to another Catholic school because the nuns were leaving the other Catholic schools. We can come back to what that signaled from my parents back then. So my mom was like, no, we need something better. We need something different. So we moved to another Catholic school, and we're not Catholic, just FYI, we're not Catholic. And, my skin, I'm black. My mom is black. My dad is black. My mom is light skinned. My dad is dark skinned, but we're black. And that next Catholic school wasn't. It was mostly white. But that was an environment that we learned to be, I won't say comfortable, but we learned to navigate and move through. And so it was familiar. So starting in my high school career, so we go through this, second school that we go to, the Catholic school that's mostly white. It's in a better part of Baltimore. Just going along. Get into high school, we were just going to go through and, okay, let's go to a Catholic high school because it seems to be working out for me, my siblings. We're doing well in school. We're active. We're adjusting. We're just seem to be doing fine. A teacher, my 8th grade teacher, suggested a private school in Baltimore. Never heard of it. The location was a little bit deceiving because it seemed like it was in a part of town that if you didn't know where it was, you would think, ooh, why is it all the way over? Like, why is it there? But we went for a visit. And when we went to St. Paul's School for Girls campus in Baltimore County, it looked like we were stepping into another world. It is 10.1 miles away from the home where I grew up.
Wow.
10 miles. But it seemed like a world away. I mean, manicured green lawns. It looked like a college campus. And I just remember that feeling, the whole family driving up to do a visit for me. And we were just floored. Like, what is this? Like, this is a school that children go to? So we were just jaw drop, like, pick up your mouth. So that was 1993. When I saw with my own eyes the difference, just in environment, the environmental difference. We could have 20 other podcast episodes where I talk through each of these pieces of my journey, but just know that transition from where we were to now in not only a predominantly white environment, which we were familiar with, but now we're talking about affluence.
Yes.
We're talking about back in 1993, the tuition was only about $10,000 a year. Only. I think today it's about 40. And that's not uncommon. So if you know the private school space, independent schools, that's, hey, we didn't have that money, Benita. We didn't have that money. So the good Lord saw fit.
Yeah. Amen.
where I received a full 4-year academic scholarship.
Yes.
To go to St. Paul's. And so it was 1993 where I first saw the difference in, I didn't have the language back then, but I saw the difference in quality. Now, I hadn't experienced it yet, but I knew it was different.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it was exclusive. I knew it was sort of like out of reach. I knew it wasn't accessible to everyone. And the experience I had with my mom dropping, so every morning my mom would take us to school because it was somewhat on her way to work. I mean, we had to carpool. We had to, figure out a way to make that transportation work. But I remember traveling past, there were public high schools right in my neighborhood, public high schools on the route. And I just remember seeing kids that looked like me catching the city bus, walking. They were wearing their own clothes. I had a uniform and I was like, why do they get to wear their own clothes? I have to wear a uniform. And I was a little bit, I won't say I was jealous. I was like, ugh. But I saw every day, I saw the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I saw, and I connected that with quality. I connected that with experience. I had friends, family who I knew from personal experience were not necessarily getting the same education or having or receiving the same opportunities. I went to Spain in high school. I remember grandparents and aunts and uncles having to help for those sorts of things. Even though tuition was paid, it's still not free.
No.
So I'm starting at that time formulating, okay, this isn't right. This isn't fair. This isn't something. I fast forward through college, through grad school, still on this trajectory of progress. And I didn't have the language to really understand what that meant as well. But I knew from my parents' decision when I was, coming into kindergarten, first grade, that they had a vision for where they wanted that education journey to lead me and to lead my siblings. And with my mom being first in her family to graduate from high school, and no one in her generation, so of my cousins, my first cousins, we've broken generational patterns in different ways. Right. But it's really my generation that because of our parents and because of their parents, my grandparents, that we are doing these things today, that I'm actually in this conversation with you. So I go through my college years, my grad school years, trying to figure out why and how we get to this place in the United States with public education, and understanding why it seemed that was not the best option for me. Why couldn't it be the best option for me? Why did I have to go to a private school? Why did my parents feel it was necessary to make the decisions that they made? And my innocence, my naivete just said, why can't we have a world where all schools can be high quality schools, able to serve all students equally well? I didn't get that language until like 2018, when I was like 15, 20 years into my career, 15 years. But after working in this classroom, and I taught briefly, worked in an organization that did national multi-site, multi-year, multi-million-dollar evaluations. I was the junior person on those teams, just kind of getting started in my career. And seeing education in different contexts, different states, different levels, high school, middle school, different initiatives. I wanted to understand what we were doing to fix what looked like and what seemed like a really obvious problem that, of course, we can fix it. Just get better. Just do better.
I'm a pause. Was it obvious to everyone? Okay. No. And you say that because of your experiences, even if you didn't understand the vocabulary, you didn't have the vocabulary yet. I have a shirt that says, don't believe what they tell you, believe what you see.
Yes.
Okay. And so you saw that, you were like, okay, mom's driving me. I could have walked to this school. I'm looking at this uniform. They wearing their jeans and t-shirts like, okay, so I'm driving. So my school looks like a college campus. That school looked like the county jail.
Say it.
And so even in the physical, you haven't even gotten inside the classroom. Even in just that physical, you were able to say, okay, so the money that we're sending here, that I have a scholarship and the other parents are paying out of pocket, and the money that you're spending on a student per student here, I clearly can see is not equitable and it does not equal the success that you're saying I'm gonna get. Because that's what happens. Like if my tuition for my child is $10,000 a year, and now we know, and you're right, now we know even before inflation, 40,000 a year, depending, and it will fluctuate depending on grade level and number of children you have in that school. We all know that. The quality I'm looking for and what I'm looking for has to be, it must be top notch. It must be a trip to Spain. It must be my child has the opportunity to be an international scholar. It must be that we have lacrosse and Wi-Fi and access to whatever my child needs to be successful in growing them in critical thinking skills and as a person. And so then I'm looking at your vision again. I didn't put the whole thing up, but it says every school is a high quality school able to serve all students well. And then that's the part. So I'm listening to you, and you said something that's important, and I want people to understand that.
We can keep moving.
We're gonna have a whole nother podcast, part 2 and 3.
Yes. Ugh.
So this is my question, because some of the stuff we already covered. So I would keep it moving, but I do want to say this. As your business, what aspect do you see you are disrupting or dismantling? And then how are you helping to rebuild it or put it back together?
That's a really good question. And I think beyond this conversation, I'll still be thinking about the answer to that question. Can you say it again? I need it to sink in again. Can you repeat that, please?
Yes. So in your company, in your organization, what layers are you working with to dismantle in education, and how are you helping to build it back and replenish it? If we take away, but we also are going to replenish and build it back up. So how are you doing that? Or how are you wanting to do it? Because it may not be in fruit. It may be, this is what we want to do. We may still be building it.
Yeah. Well, I think so. One of my strengths, gifts, qualities that I don't think I always saw, and that really folks had to reflect back to me, was or is just the way that I think. And not that it's better or, quote unquote special. It's different. And I think we all need different. I'm different, you're different. So my being a different thinker doesn't mean that I'm better. It just means I can offer something that might disrupt the way that you've always thought about something. And you, as the receiver of information or ideas or thoughts, you can say, oh, that makes sense. Or no, I need you to break that down a little bit differently because I'm actually curious. Or it could be, no, that doesn't fit with where I'm going. So you have some options. But I am I'm always curious, and I'm an observer of things. I just collect information. And so I'll give an example of when I'm working with school leaders, for example, and they're doing things the best way that they know how. They're working in high concentrations of poverty. This is a charter school or Catholic school or whatever. And they're struggling. So I'm kind of bringing in a bunch of different clients that I've worked with and kind of making it a composite situation. Yes. One of the challenges that tends to always come up is student performance outcomes. You know, they're concerned that they're not serving, and rightfully so, concerned that they're not serving Black and brown children the best way that they can, that they're leaving them not on a path that will accelerate sort of that next generational, that leapfrog in some cases where a child needs to not just get the bare minimum, because that's not going to get them to a place where they will be successful in whatever way they define it. So the way that I can kind of disrupt that and sort of shake things up is this concept of a slingshot, actually. And I was talking with someone that's been coaching me, and she said, it sounds like what you do is you come in, you listen. So I listen to the school leaders, I understand and get to an understanding of what are they trying to accomplish? How are they trying to accomplish it? Is it through a certain organizational structure? Is it through their curriculum? Is it through their program offerings? Whatever it is. And take it all in, observe, ask questions. And then I kind of assemble it in my mind, and I know where they're trying to go. They're trying to raise their graduation rates or raise test scores. And that's a controversial way to phrase that. So I'm not necessarily saying teach to a test, but they're trying to elevate achievement, raise those things, you know, raise the standard for learning, mastery, progress. So they're trying to do all these things and they're not succeeding as a school. So then I most recently was listening to a set of leaders talk about what they could do differently. And I was hearing that they were saying different things, but underneath of it, they were all on the same page. And so I broke it down, you know, reflected it back to them. And I said, this is what I'm hearing you say, but this is what I'm hearing.
Right.
Is this right? And nods around the table. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So then with that agreement that this is where you want to go and how you think you need to get there, let's think of what you're doing now that isn't serving you in that way to get there. And sometimes you can't see yourself. So just, it's no judgment. We all, I believe, could benefit from an external perspective.
Yes.
You know, I can't, I'm looking at my reflection. I'm looking, you know, but I can't from this spot without something external. I can't see myself. And so I'm really I'm really a mirror. When I say slingshot, so I step in, I listen, I kind of take and pull people back. And then I kind of shake things up and say, well, maybe I'll throw in something controversial and say, well, you actually are perpetuating the inequities that you're trying to disrupt. And then I just, okay, let's sit for a second. Or the way that this is playing out, if we look further down the line, it's actually not taking you in the direction that you think you might want to go. So I might drop some things in there to kind of blow up their ideas a little bit. But then I reorient them to say, you do have a common aim. I believe you when you say this. And if you're trying to get to point B, where you are right now is actually not going to get you there based on what you've told me. So then I just, after I reorient them with this slingshot, there's tension and I'm holding the tension with them. and then I let them go. And they might not go far, meaning the letting go might not be 10 years down the line, I have an answer for you. It might be, this is what you need to do tomorrow. This might be what you need to do for the next grading period or the next school year. And you probably will need to be reoriented again. I mean, it's all about calibration, I think. And we learn, people learn as they go. We don't have it all figured out. If we did, why would we need anything from anybody else?
Mm-hmm.
So how am I don't know. I think that just tends to come naturally to me, where I'll do that without somebody asking sometimes. And I have to, somebody didn't ask, Samantha, somebody did not ask you for your opinion. So just, if they invite you in.
I love, because I was about to say that and you said it, because I was writing notes and I was like, so one, you naturally do that. Because I was sitting here going, yeah, I don't do that. And I'm gonna tell you what I do, what you do. And I was writing today and I said the slingshot method, love it.
Mm.
And then you said, because I was like, oh, it's something missing that I didn't get. And then you said, but I hold the tension with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's one thing to look in the mirror and evaluate. It's another thing for somebody to pull you back and say, so the trajectory that you are on is wrong. And a slingshot, if anybody knows a slingshot, it's not a bow, this is a bow and arrow, but a slingshot, you put the rock in and you have to twist it and turn it. And amazingly, how you do it, it goes in the path of the direction that you want it to go. It's still science to me. I still don't get it. But as a country girl, I saw plenty of boys knock a bird or a squirrel out of a tree with a slingshot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting here and I was like, yeah, that's what you do. You realign, you recreate, you reflect, make them reflect. You hold that tension and then you release.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about a slingshot is that the release is still guided. So that's why you're still there. You're still there guiding them to the success. Because I think people have to understand that to you is, why everybody not doing this? Matter of fact, I'm gonna retract. How do we get more participants who are leaders of the educational institutions to understand that this is a service that they need? That's the question.
I don't know that we get them to do it. I wrestle. That's a question that resonates with me. And I've wrestled with that. I don't know that we get them to. I think that, at least in my professional experience, people arrive there, and typically when I'm involved in sort of this thinking, and I'll come back to where I'm just pausing right now to go back to what you said. When I come in and the way that I support folks, whether it's an individual or a team, I'm typically not the person that gives them the step-by-step.
Okay.
I am the person that helps them to think about the fact that they even need a step-by-step for something that is coming down, right? So you would come in and break it all up, and now they're just sitting around like, oh my gosh, Benita left me. And then I'm like, okay, no, here we go. So what Benita showed you was that this wasn't working. And now, and when you break something that someone thought was the way or the path, some people are not sure what to do next.
Sure.
I'm not sure necessarily. I might have some ideas, right? Like I do have expertise in certain areas, school improvement and research and all those good things, but I don't always know what you should do. But I can sit there and help you understand. I can sit there and understand your context, understand where you're trying to go. Why did Benita come in and break all your stuff? and just talk to me. Tell me what are you trying to do? Really, like, let's break that down. And so almost it's like helping them to get the clarity that they need so that when I do let them go, they're actually going to need support in a different way from someone who, now that they have the clarity and the direction, now somebody can kind of get their hands dirty with them, like tactical, like in the trenches kind of work. So I think there's so many different people and resources that we need. And I knew this was going to happen because I am like all over the place whenever I think like my brain just fires. I wanted to come back to that because where I was headed, where was I headed, Benita, with that?
Well, we could come like whenever, when it pops back up.
Yes.
Okay, it came back. I'm like that. Like when you see me sitting taking notes, I'm like, okay.
I know what it was. So you asked me, how do we get people? People don't always, how do we get people to, and I said, I don't think we get them to do anything. What I do think, and the way I think I can show up in this space is just kind of poke at your thoughts, poke at your assumptions. Is there something different? Is there something better? And better is relative. There's no absolute better. My better is different from your better, different than your better. My best is different than your best. And so when people come to me, typically they're in like a crisis mode. They're in a, they've met you, you've broken everything. And they're like, I don't know what to do. That's, right. They're not. And so that's where it's not about getting them. It's about, they have to.
Yes.
They have to. Now, I don't know why we all don't see and then can also turn the ship around. I don't know. I have on my whiteboard, if I'm looking at my whiteboard and I have in all caps, equity.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my umbrella.
So I'm gonna pause right here because this is my issue being an English teacher.
I was a fifth grade English teacher.
So you know what I'm about to say. Please define equity for me once you take your sip of water. And let me tell you something. I follow Miss Murray on LinkedIn. And I wrote it down this morning. Rest, drink your water, and take a break. So I have my water.
I love it. And it's so funny. I would normally have coffee in this mug, but there is water in this mug this morning. So
you drink your water, you drink your tea, but then tell us what is the definition of equity? And I love it that you have it up so that you can see it.
Yeah, it's funny. I wish I had put a definition. No, the word equity is up there. But the simplest way that I think of it, and I tried to reflect it in my vision statement. I think of equity as giving people what they need.
That's it.
Not everybody needs the same thing. So it's not about not everybody needed to go to St. Paul's. That just happened to be what my journey, what my circumstance, what my situation, that was the next thing to help me make progress, to do better, to be better, to go further. So I think about equity in the sense of you have to understand context. You have to understand what Samantha needs, what Benita needs, what John needs, what Dante needs, what Sharice needs, what Kevin needs. As teachers, we know about differentiation and we know about you can't teach every child in the same way, but our education system, now, another podcast for another day, another conversation, but that was one of the things that when I went to college and grad school and started to try to understand better education, I thought it just intuitively, it doesn't make sense that everybody, why are we doing this way? And so that's a whole structural, systemic design institution conversation. But equity matters because if we're not attuned to and focused on the person,
I always want people to understand that everybody needs a coach. And you said when I was talking and speaking and discussing with my coach, he or she said this. Can you really, really quick, before we move on to the next section, give us the importance of you having a coach and then coaching and advising and consulting others?
I don't know. Just that language. I'm not saying that I don't know. I'm telling you, I have a coach because I don't know.
There it is.
I have a coach. So I was an athletic. I did sports. I had coaches because I didn't know that I had to learn something. They had to look, again, externally. We all need somebody external. They were looking at my form on the basketball court. Oh, you need to bring your elbow in just a little bit. My elbow wasn't, yes, you want to see the tape? Oh, elbow in. Okay. I'm making that up, but we didn't have time. Anyway,
but we can relate to it because now you do. Now you do.
Exactly. So I have a coach because there are things that I don't see. And we all need coaches. We all need someone external because we can't see. I don't know what the back of my head looks like.
Right. Yep.
So I say, why do I have a coach? Why is it important? It's because I don't know.
There it is.
But we can discover, we can learn together.
A coach needs a coach and a therapist needs a therapist. We're going to wrap up this section before we get to the fun stuff.
Okay.
3 takeaways. So 3 takeaways that you could implement right now as we're moving forward in education. COVID is going to be here like the flu. It's going to be, is now part of the diseases, the sicknesses that we have to manage and handle. There is a shift in the education system where school choice is actually trying to be school choice, where they're allowing vouchers to be used in non-public settings. Parents got fed up, so they started pods and they started micro schools. They started home schools more and more. And so things have shifted. They're shifting. I hope they don't shift backwards. I hope, but we see it. We see it in the news where we are ostracizing educators, communities, passing laws that just are stupid. It's no way to say it. I'm sorry. But if you could walk away, if I walked away and said, I listened to the podcast and these are 3 takeaways I have, what would they be?
If you are a parent listening, this is something that a mentor and friend, Dr. Lisa Williams, said in a conversation with a client. She reminded us around equity. She said, privileged families demand, vulnerable families depend. And that's I'm still like, I get like, oof. So as a parent, so let's drop the privileged part. Let's drop the vulnerable part, because I don't want that to be your identity necessarily. But just know that you don't have to depend. You can state what you need and what you want. And easier said than done in terms of you might not have resources that would make it easier to demand something. Or so I don't want to underestimate that or undervalue that. But just know that you have just as much worth, value, and voice as any other parent. Now, that's one thing. So just know that you can demand. And that just might be a conversation. That might just be a question that you ask your child's principal. It might just be talking to another parent. A number of different things. Another takeaway, another right now, implement moving forward, is challenge. I'm a thinking person, so challenge your own assumptions. So whenever it strikes you that you are making a value judgment or saying something like, that's not fair, or that school's not for me, or why am I stuck here, or this isn't working for me, dig into that question a little bit, and you might find that you have more voice than you thought you had. And so it's about shifting a little bit the way you think. And that's hard, but we can't make progress unless we try.
Yeah.
And then I think a third takeaway that you can implement right now is, no matter who you are, part of the theme, again, of having a coach is being okay with not knowing. So my coach, and I have several different coaches, mentors, but this is someone who is helping me in a very particular area around like language, the way that I describe some of the things like on my website, or, just the way that I communicate. We were talking about the way that I think, and she at the very end said, so what would you like to do next? And it was wrapping up the conversation. And I instinctively looked to my whiteboard and tried to make up something like, oh, let's talk about, she said, she just gave me a look. And then I said, I don't know. And when I said that, so the actual thing to take away from that is, when you say you don't know, you allow something that can help you to come in. Because if you're always trying to get the answer, then all I can say is that was a pivotal moment for me when I realized that I could say I don't know. And that's okay.
Yes.
Because maybe there isn't an answer.
Ooh.
That's another podcast, Benita. That's a whole.
It is. We're gonna do. Let me break that. That education is a business.
I did a webinar on that in a previous career of my, not a previous career, in a previous position that I had, and it was controversial. I mean, you're right. We'll talk about that another time. But
we're gonna do another way. We can do a webinar about it, bring some people along, because I already look. We always talk about that. I'm like, look, it is a business. It's a business of education, but it is a business still. Anytime you involve exchanging of services and goods,
yes,
it's a business.
It is.
If I sell T-shirts, if I sell earrings, I have a business. And I can pull up your school's EIN. I can pull up your school's district EIN. That's a business.
Okay, if you don't have children enrolled, you don't have a school. And what does it take to operate an organization? It takes resources. So I'm going to write that down too. That's another conversation.
Because in October, when they do that, count it, if the butt is in the seat, count it. So we can get the money. And we like, all children need to report at school this day. And we bring it back suspended kids. Just come in until we count you, then get lunch and go back home till you got 5 more days.
Not the keyboard clacking.
Just come on in.
We're supposed to be wrapping up. Okay, we're
gonna wrap up. I can't. Okay, so this year I included something that I love called Controversial Corner, but I think we just covered it.
Maybe.
Because that was what I was gonna talk about, but we literally just covered it. Is education a business? So we just covered it. The answer is yes.
And yes.
And those of you who would like to leave comments, you can leave comments. I'll put it in the show notes. You can leave voice comments. You can leave regular comments. I'm going to make a promise, which I don't really do. We're going to come back to this, and we're going to do a webinar. We're going to get your voice. We're going to get your input. All right, so we're gonna move on. This is the part I love. And they're like, B, you're like a concierge back in the day when we checked into the hotel. And we wanted tickets to the Broadway show, or we wanted to go to that restaurant. So my question to you is, imagine that you have gone away. Tell me where you're going, country, city, wherever. And is there a restaurant? Is there a location? Is there a Broadway play you want to go to, and why? She was like, I'm sick. She had a concert already.
No.
I was like, she already did.
Well, I'm thinking about this. I love to eat. I told you when we were getting warmed up for today that I had dinner with my family last night. I love good food, and I'm obsessed with some celebrity chefs, but I just love good food. So one of my celebrity chef crushes, if you will, is Gordon Ramsay. And I would... So it's, where I think he films the Hell's Kitchen cooking competition in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I closed my eyes and I was kind of moving and dancing in my seat. I would love to go to a Hell's Kitchen taping where the kitchen, seeing all the stuff happening, and I want to be one of those diners in there. You know, the team that cooks your food might not be doing a good job that night, so my food might not be great. But I would love the experience of being in that environment. So I would say either like a Hell's Kitchen or a Master Chef competition, like the finale, where I'm watching people just do their thing and see their passion come out through food.
I love it, and that says a lot. One, that you like wild stuff, because I'm just sitting there, because I always think, like, when he shuts it down, do those people get like vouchers to go to other places because they didn't eat?
Right, exactly.
Like, do we get to go to his other restaurant? Like, what happens? And I guess I need to Google it. I'm sure somebody else has thought the same thing. I love that, and I love the fact that you're like, this is who it is. This is why.
It's growing. It is.
I love it. Okay. All right. So look, this is the last thing. I always shout it out. If you're a member of the D9, the Divine Nine, and or if you went to an HBCU, and if you went to a PWI, you can shout them out too. That's, we're not going to judge. But if you're a member of a Divine Nine and or you went to an HBCU, please shout it out proud and loud, as only you would like to do.
I attended PWIs my whole life. So
okay.
it did what it needed to do. It did what it needed to do.
Yes.
However, I mentioned my daddy. So my daddy's no longer here with us. He's been gone for about 8 years now. And he was a member. He was a charter member.
All right.
And the first pole mark.
Oh, yes.
Yes, Kappa Alpha Psi. And so he never pushed me, said that I should, but I went to Duke University, and I'm a proud member of the Lambda Omega chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And I have 12 of the most wonderful, radiant, brilliant, game-changing line sisters on the planet.
Love it.
And there was no other place for me to be other than with my Delta sisters. So it was just, and I get to share colors with my dad too. It's a nice memory. So it's a wonderful thing. But yes, Lambda Omega chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Spring 2000. Let's get it. Look, let me tell y'all something. Y'all know what I am behind me, so that is not. But let me tell you, when I told somebody the other day, I said, let me tell you what we believe in. You cannot talk about my family. I can only talk about them. Okay. You cannot talk, if you went to a different if you did not go to HBCU, you can't talk about the HBCUs. And if you are not a member of the Divine Nine, then you will not talk about my sisters and brothers that are in the D9. Because at the end of the day, it is about love. It's about community, because all of us believe in community. I've never met any D9 member who is not about giving back and about community and about their line brothers and sisters. And so that is the respect that goes across the board. That is why we were originated. That is why we are who we are, because about giving back to the community. And that's important. So I grew up in a country town. So my favorite picture, don't tell. Well, my mama knew when she was alive. My mother also passed. But my favorite picture of my dad and I is at my 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗰𝘁𝗶𝗿𝗄𝗃. That's our favorite pictures. My dad, I have my white fluffy dress on, ball hair ready, and it's my dad and I. Like, this picture is like, I have it blown up. It's in my house. Like, it goes with me every time I move. So I love the D9 raised me, even though my mom was an AKA, I'm an AKA, my sister's an AKA, my aunts were AKAs, but women of 𝗘𝗱𝘂𝗃𝗃 are very significant. They raised me, they checked me, they taught me, they corrected me. And so I love that. I love when we are able to share the importance of being a part of a member of a Divine Nine. So thank you for sharing. Shout out to Duke, even though I'm from Virginia. We don't like it. Shout out to Duke, because my god sister went there, my sister's best friend went there. So, and now this amazing educator, and I have to say this, founder. You're a Black female business owner that's sitting in front of me. Thank you so much for your presence, for your, I love it when I have guests that have like a yin to my yang. You're like, your presence is calming, but it's powerful. Thank you, first of all, for you being you, for sharing your gift through your company. This is not our last time talking and chatting, but I'm gonna let you end that. I'm a good old Baptist girl. I was raised in Little Shallow Baptist Church on the Dam Road in Emporia, Virginia. Shout out Southside Virginia. And the pastor of the church, he would let the guest pastor in. He can't open the doors of the church. I open the doors of the church, but he would let him end any way he wanted to. So that's what I always allow my guests, however you want to end it, if it's a song, if it's a prayer, if it's a speech, if it's your favorite quote, however you would like to end it, I'm gonna give you the opportunity. Thank you, TEC podcast listeners, and thank you for joining us. And Miss Samantha Murray is gonna end it for us.
Well, thank you. I receive all of that and appreciate you. I appreciate everyone that's listening. I will leave you with something. So I'm a PK, and for those that don't know what that means, I'm a pastor's kid. My daddy was a pastor. And one of the things that he said to me, to my brother and my sister before he dropped us off at school, well, he didn't say anything, actually. I don't even know who came up with this phrase, but it was a mantra that we said every day. And he said, listen, pay attention, and follow directions. I don't know where he came up with that, but that is something that I will leave everyone here with. Listen, pay attention, and follow directions. And that's a part of me that I'm sharing with all of you. So in remembrance and honoring of my dad, and honoring my dad.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.